Welcome to the Widowed Parent Podcast with your host, Jenny Lisk.
Hey everyone, it's Jenny Lisk, and this is episode 27 of the Widowed Parent Podcast. I had a great discussion with Haley Brown for this episode. Haley is the outreach coordinator of the Seattle University chapter of Camp Kesem, and she lost her dad when she was 12. Camp Kesem is an organization with chapters at college campuses all across the U.S., and these chapters run free summer camps for kids and teens with a parent affected by cancer. This includes kids with a parent who died of cancer, a parent who survived cancer, or a parent currently being treated. We talked about what Camp Kesem is and who it's for, activities at camp, including typical summer camp activities such as boating, swimming, and crafts, the counselor and training program for older teens, how college students can get involved in organizing or being a counselor at camp, programs other than summer camp that Camp Kesem chapters run throughout the year, how to find a Camp Kesem chapter near you, Haley's experience and reflections on losing her dad to cancer at age 12, and what it means to her to volunteer with kids affected by a parent's cancer. If you have a kid aged 6 to 18 and your family has been affected by cancer, I would encourage you to check it out. I hope you enjoy my discussion with Haley Brown. My guest today is Haley Brown, who's joining us from her office in Seattle, Washington. Haley, welcome.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited to chat with you today.
Great. Yeah, me too. And so you're an outreach coordinator for Camp Kesem for the chapter at Seattle University. And before I ask you all about Camp Kesem, as well as your own journey with grief, I'd like to ask you to start out, if you would please, by reading a few quotes from some of the Camp Kesem participants over the years.
I'd love to. I now have a second family, a group of people who will laugh and cry with me, a group of people who actually understand and relate to me. The Kesem family is special to me because it's a group of people who make each other stronger. They all know what it feels like when cancer has touched their heart, and they know that even though cancer makes you weak, if you have people surrounding you who love and care about you, it can make you stronger. I don't have to pretend to be this kid who's okay. I can just be who I want to be.
Fantastic. Great. So that's three different quotes from three different kids who've attended camp over the years. So thank you for sharing that. So let's jump right in then and talk about Camp Kesem. So first of all, what is Camp Kesem?
Yeah, so Camp Kesem is a nonprofit national organization who supports children, especially with a camp, obviously. It's called Camp Kesem, with a free camp every summer that are impacted by a parent's cancer. So we have had campers come that have lost a parent, or a parent that's a survivor, a parent that's in remission, anyone that's been affected by cancer. Those are the children that are able to come to camp. Mm-hmm. And it's at no cost to the families. In addition to camp, there are services that can be provided throughout the year, and they call those the through and beyond services. And so those can look like a variety of things. For some families, it's celebrating when someone is entering into remission. For other families, it can be going to a baseball game, with a son to support him. It can look like a lot of things. And so that, while camp is our main focus, we also have things that we do throughout the year to support families. Mm. We also run things called Friends and Family Day. And those are opportunities for the families to come together and connect with each other as well.
Okay. So let's, before we get to the camp part itself, the throughout the year experiences, are those really for families or, for kids who have been in the summer camp program to then do throughout the year, or for families if they've not attended camp, are they eligible for any of those other activities throughout the year?
Yeah, so I think one of the main things that we talk about with Camp Kesem is that it's this community experience. And so even if a kid or a family, has not entered Camp Kesem before, it's a time for new families to come join. It can also be for families that have, had a kid that's gone to camp before. In addition to that, if there are people that know that camp isn't something they'll ever be able to do, they're still welcome to come to those events and can also access anything that Camp Kesem provides. Yeah. So it's really cool because it connects everyone together regardless of your camp attendance.
Yeah. Okay. That's cool. And so just to repeat then, it's specifically for kids affected by their parents' cancer, whether the parent is currently being treated, whether they've been treated and survived, or whether they have passed away from cancer. Those are the kids that this camp is for.
That's right. And, of course, we also have guardians, or kind of someone that's in that sort of parental role, because we do have
not siblings or friends.
That's right. Not siblings or friends. There are definitely other resources for that as well, but Camp Kesem specifically focuses on that population, which is around 5 million kids that are impacted by parent or guardian's cancer. So
5 million kids. Wow, that's okay. That's a lot, and that's in the U.S. I'm assuming.
That's right, in our nation. Yeah.
Okay. And what age of kids is the camp for?
Yeah. So Camp Kesem goes 6 to 18. And the 17 and 18-year-olds, the ones that attend camp, enter something called the Teen Leadership Program. So basically, they become counselors in training, which is really an awesome opportunity for them. It's kind of giving them that ownership and recognizing that their age is, they're older than some of the other younger campers there. But it's a really cool opportunity for them entering, some of those kids entering college or the workforce. It's a really great skill building opportunity, in addition to being this really supportive, kind of family experience at camp.
Yeah, and I think we had a small glitch in the sound. That was for which age group was the counselor in training?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, 17 to 18-year-olds are part of the counselor in training. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
The teen group kind of does all, there's different age groups that do different types of programming, in addition to working together throughout camp. But 17 and 18 specifically start to do the counselor in training program, which is really cool.
Yeah, that is cool. And it goes all the way down to age 6.
That's right.
Awesome. Yeah. So I think I read somewhere that Camp Kesem was founded at Stanford University.
Yeah, that's right.
And so how long has it been around then?
So Camp Kesem started in 2000. So really it's been around for about 20 years, which is pretty exciting, almost 20 years.
Nice. Okay, and last year it looks like over 9,000 children attended various camps nationwide.
That's right. Yeah, I think we only have a few states remaining that don't actually have a Camp Kesem. And so the way it works is that a chapter at a university is started. Some of them have been around for a long time, like Stanford's and a few others. And then Seattle U's, the one that I'm a part of, is actually new. Started last year. This is our second camp this summer.
Nice.
So the chapters are created at a university. And then from there, that community is able to access that camp that's kind of in that geographic region.
Yeah. Okay, let's come back to the college part, because I think that's a really interesting piece of this. But before we go down that path, as far as, the camp itself, so where do you hold these camps? Is this like camping? Are you taking the kids camping, or how does this work?
Yeah, so kind of, it really depends on, where the camps are and what university or college they're connected to. But so for us here, they're very traditional summer camps in the sense of like lots of outdoors, sort of activities, lakes, places like that, like out in the wilderness, I guess. And they're very much, they've got that summer camp feel, that kind of like magical experience that kids have, where it's just like once in a lifetime experience that you have, where you build these connections and these friendships, and you do lots of stuff outside, in addition to things like, like fun Olympics, where you're like running through all these different obstacle courses and getting really messy. It's very much a time for kids to be kids. And I think that's one of the magical things about Camp Kesem, is that it gives that space for the kids to do that, which in other parts of their life, they may not be able to do anymore.
Yeah. Okay. So, and I was wondering about that. Like, is this just like all cancer all week? I mean, or is this not so much that? I could imagine the kids saying, I don't want to go to a camp for kids whose parents had cancer, because that's going to be sad or dumb or something, right? So how does that work out?
Right. That's a super good question. And we actually talk about that a lot. So, the purpose of Kesem obviously is that we're creating a space for kids to be kids and kind of have this opportunity that they don't have throughout the rest of the year, because they're not necessarily connected to anyone else that's going through what they're going through. With that in mind, though, part of what's special about camp is that it's really truly a summer camp in the essence of all of those, kind of outdoors experiences, all those really fun activities. But we do have something where we really acknowledge, there's one of the days in the week where we really acknowledge kind of why we're there, and that's called the empowerment ceremony. And so empowerment, again, each chapter does things a little bit differently, but empowerment is really that time where we talk through why we're there, and we kind of, the kids are all prepared for it. They know it's coming throughout the week. It's a conversation that happens a few times, but empowerment has its own space, and it's kids, it's called challenge by choice too. So, no one has to participate if they don't want to, but it's certainly that opportunity for them to engage in that if they want. It looks like a lot of different activities, and it's a time for the kids to share if they want, or listen if they want, and be involved in talking about why we're all there together, and the thread that kind of connects us all. It's called empowerment for a reason. It's a really empowering time, and for the campers, for the counselors, for everyone there. And so it's pretty incredible, and it is a really it has a lasting effect on the campers that go. They remember empowerment. It looks a little different for each group. The older kids can do a little, different activities than the younger ones might be able to access or be interested in. So, and that's really the main time where cancer is a focus, and that's what we talk about. And it's not even so much that we talk about the cancer; it's more about their experiences and their feelings and how we're all connected.
Okay. No, that does sound cool. And so it sounds like most of the time then they're like doing craft projects and going on hikes and swimming and boating, and depending, I suppose, on the facility, but the different types of what you might think of as YMCA camp or Girl Scout camp or whatever summer camp type activities and experience. It's just that all the kids there happen to have something in common in terms of being affected by their family's cancer.
That's exactly right. And it is. It's very much that summer camp. It's a week of so much fun. And it's like the ones where the kids are like exhausted by the end of the day because they're just running and having so much fun all day. But in addition to that, of course, we have the space for if anyone needs to talk, if they want to remove themselves for something, from an activity, if they're feeling some emotion and they want to talk about it or not talk, there's the recognition of that. And the counselors go through extensive training prior to being, going to camp. And so in addition to that, we do have a mental health professional on staff that comes for the week. And we also have nurses, of course, to support any kinds of medications or allergies, those sorts of things. It's very much the awareness of all those pieces, but it's really a summer camp, and that's really the idea. And truly just seeing the connections that the kids make from camp that they then take into the rest of their year is really one of the most powerful parts of all of it, is that they are able to create their own communities so that they aren't isolated when they leave camp. And it's not all about, oh my gosh, I'm not going to see these people till camp again. They're able to connect outside of camp, which is the whole idea, is that we create this community. So it's really amazing. Right.
No, that's cool. And I think I read on your website, you guys typically like rent out a facility of an actual camp, like a Girl Scout camp or a YMCA camp or some kind of a professional camp facility.
That's right. You got it. Yeah. And that's the other piece too. I don't know how all camps operate, but I think that it's something like that, a facility that's got cabins, and places for kids to sleep, bunks, those sorts of things. So it's
bathrooms and a dining hall. And you're not roughing it too much.
No, not a survival camp. I will say that. It's not that.
It's not a wilderness camp. You're not climbing Mount Everest.
No, there's some light hiking, light outdoor activities, beds to sleep in.
Sure. Okay. No, that's cool. Okay. So, and then, so do some of your kids then like come back year after year?
Yes. We've got, again, Seattle University's chapters. This is only its second year, but most of our campers have returned. There's been some exceptions with some travel and school dates and things like that from all of our snow days that we had this year. So, lots of returning campers. And we also have a ton of new campers, in each chapter, one of the goals obviously is to continue to grow, so we can reach more families and more kids. And so we have a pretty high number of new campers this year as well. We've actually doubled in size this year, which is really exciting.
Oh, wow. And so ballpark, like how many kids are you talking about?
Yeah. So we had, I think, around 20-ish campers last year, 20 plus campers. I wasn't involved last year, but from my memory, and this year we're going to serve around 40.
Okay. Just at your particular chapter.
Yes, that's right. Some of the other chapters are huge.
Yeah, I can imagine if they've been around for a while. And then how many nights is it typically?
It's usually 5 nights. So there's, kind of like a date where everyone comes to get on the bus, and we do the traditional, like, get on the bus. But these are nice buses also, I should mention. These are like, got air and stuff. But yeah, so, they come to get on the bus. If kids need transportation to the drop-off location, we also can get that provided for them. To get there, all on the bus, everybody's on the bus, and then we, kind of head out to whatever the campsite is. And then, it's usually a 5-day thing. And then we all come back on the bus together and disperse, and then hopefully see each other sooner rather than later.
Yeah. No, that's cool. Okay. And so you've mentioned then that the each camp is run by a different chapter, and a chapter is at a college or university. So how does that work?
Yeah, it's a good question. So it's a volunteer run organization other than our national chapter. So Camp Kesem National, there are staff members there that basically we have a regional director, and that person runs several different chapters throughout our region, essentially. And then there's, some other staff members there at the national chapter. But I can tell you Seattle U, for example, one of our directors this year, actually, when she came to Seattle University, there was not a chapter, and she was like, I'm starting one, we're getting this going. And so she put in a lot of work to get this chapter started. And that's how most of the chapters have started at all of the universities. It's a similar story. Someone or a group of people said, we need Camp Kesem. And so they got them started. And then from there, obviously, it's just kind of building it's volunteer. So building all of that structure, getting people connected. And so, as you mentioned, I'm one of the coordinators. So I do outreach. So a lot of my work is with families and with community connections. But we also have several other different coordinator teams. And so all year, basically starting at the beginning of the school year, we meet regularly. We have agenda items. We have things we have to do every, most weeks to prepare for camp. That includes fundraising, that includes events on campus, community connections, our events with our families, and then, of course, camp planning.
Well, that sounds like a huge undertaking.
It's a lot of work, but it's truly so amazing to see the families come back together, and just even thinking about how our one camp last year impacted so many people.
Yeah.
It's really incredible work. It is a lot of work, but it's so worth it, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's cool. So, and how many students are involved, say, in running your chapter, or maybe a typical chapter? Maybe you don't know about typical. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So, obviously us being new, we're still, kind of building our group here. But I think we have maybe 10 to 12 coordinators, because we have different, we have like volunteer, we have outreach, we've got directors, these different areas that people cover. And it's typically a coordinator team of 2 people. So we got about 10 to 12 of those coordinators. And then in addition to that, we have a general body of other members. Not, connected necessarily to the students at the university, but we also have alumni. So either counselors or directors that have graduated, but are still involved and come to events and things like that. And we also have an incredible advisory board that's made up of community members. It could be alumni, it could be all kinds of support, different stakeholders throughout our community that are also involved. And we meet with them quarterly as well.
And so the student volunteers who run the chapter, do they typically have some kind of family connection to cancer as well?
Yeah, I would say, just thinking about our group, there are several people that have a very personal connection to a parent's cancer or cancer generally. And then there are some that, knew someone who was like, hey, you really need to check out this organization. It's incredible. And as soon as they got involved, or they met the kids, or they became a counselor, lots of people become a counselor and then they're like hooked because it's just this incredible experience. They become involved. So I would say it's pretty split. I think we do have a mix of people, but I think it's been really, for me, it's been really amazing, just my personal journey and how I ended up now being a part of Kesem. It's just been really incredible to kind of put my energy towards something that I think is really making a big difference.
Well, yeah. Okay. So let's talk about that a little bit, about your journey. So, well, first of all, when did you start getting involved with Camp Kesem?
Yeah. So I am a little late to the Kesem game, I feel like, in terms of the whole journey of Kesem. But so I'm doing my doctoral work right now at Seattle University. And so basically to be a student volunteer, you have to be a student, of course. So when I left my master's program, I went to a school in St. Louis. I moved out to Washington and worked for a few years and then was deciding to go back to school. And when I did, Kesem like came back up in my head and I was like, I found this camp, you know, like after I graduated from college and was like, oh my gosh, how do I get involved in this? And so when I came back to school, I immediately contacted the chapter at Seattle University and said, what can I want to be involved? What do I do? And they were so welcoming and like so excited to have a graduate student because a lot of them are undergrad students, which is fantastic. It's a great opportunity for undergrad students. And so I'm kind of a different person in our group, which has been amazing too. But yeah, so anyway, I got involved and so this is just my first year. So I'll be a counselor this summer at camp. And this will be my first year ever going to camp.
Yeah.
First time ever. I'm so excited.
That's super cool. So what kind of training then is provided for the college counselors who'll be at camp?
Yeah. So we have basically there's a whole bunch of stuff that goes into becoming a counselor. So you obviously have to apply. There's a background check. There's all these different pieces that of course make sense when you're working with children. But in addition to that, I can't remember the amount of hours, but it's quite a few in-person trainings that we have to get that are, you know, things that the national chapter has given to us and said, you know, you guys have to be versed in all of these different pieces. And that includes a lot of that social emotional awareness, you know, bullying, safety, like lots of different topics that you would think a counselor probably should be aware of, especially with our unique camp that we have. Yeah. In addition to that, we do have webinars as well that we have to complete. So it's a lot of hours of training, but to be honest, it's all really, really relevant information. And I think it's really powerful for the counselors to hear and talk through a lot of these things together as groups to then go forward into camp and be prepared for best ways to support the kids.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And then I think you mentioned that on top of the trained college student counselors, you mentioned there's also like some professional staff there, a nurse, some other like adult professional leaders.
That's right. So there's also a mental health professional there, you know, to support any kids and staff that need support. In addition to that, we also have someone from nationals and one of our support people comes for part of the time. We have a visitation day where some of them come and visit us and check out camp and see how things are going. So it's very much it's a well supported situation, especially with our size of our chapter. It's been incredible just to get to know how many staff, like pro staff, as we call them, pro staff, will be there to support us. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And I think okay. So thank you. I think that sounds really cool. And so for any for families who may have had a parent currently affected or has been affected by cancer, that sounds like a really neat resource.
It's really incredible. Yeah, it's really incredible. And again, we have camp, but we also have the rest of the year. And so while camp has its own magical place in all of it, it's also to build that for the rest of the year.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Cool. Okay. And so you mentioned that you got involved fairly recently. I think, though, your journey with cancer in your family has been much longer than that.
It has, yes.
Let's dive into that a little bit, if that's all right.
Absolutely.
I think that your dad passed away of cancer, right?
He did, yes, when I was 12 years old. Mm-hmm.
12 years old, okay. Can you tell me a little bit about, well, first of all, I guess before he died, what was your life like before everything changed? Just a little bit about kind of a little background.
Yeah. So I grew up in Georgia. I have two older sisters who were teenagers when I was born. I was a surprise late in life for my parents. Mm. So that was fun, growing up with basically three moms, So my mom's a nurse also, and my dad was a firefighter. And so my mom, both working all the time. I was a really busy, active kid. I had a lot of that, only child kind of stuff going on because my sisters didn't live at home anymore. They were in their 20s, around that time. And so, I think, for me, there was also some trouble in my parents' marriage a little bit before my dad got sick. And so part of what was really challenging was kind of leading up to him getting sick. lots of fights at home. I had a lot of anxiety around that. There was a lot of tension there. But as my dad was getting sick and as we were finding out what was going on with him, my parents were actually kind of coming back together. So in a way, it was pretty cool that there was this connection happening. But the other side of that was that my dad was getting sick and initially was misdiagnosed a couple of times. And my mom was very persistent that he continued to go to other specialists, and that's what they did. And then that's when we found out that he had melanoma skin cancer. And so they found out that it had metastasized and spread. And initially they had said he wasn't going to be able to have any operations or anything that would be able to help. But then they were able to do it. And so we had a little bit more time than we expected, but that was kind of the initial portion of my dad getting sick, and the start of all of it was very confusing. It was like, is he sick? Is he not? Do we have something serious going on? Do we not? So yeah, lots of confusing things. I remember being a child, I think I was maybe 9 when all of this really started. And so it was really confusing.
It sounds like it. Yeah. And so then it sounds like it was about 3 years of that. You mentioned that he did die when you were 12.
That's right. Yeah. It was like we had the surgery and, and things were better for a while and we were healing and we were in remission and things were going well. And then it came back and it was even more aggressive that time. And, they said we can try chemo, and my dad did not want to do that. And so, yeah, so it was kind of really, really hard at first. We had surgery, we were healing, things were better. And then out of nowhere, it felt like out of nowhere, all of a sudden we were back in that same boat again.
Right. Okay. Do you remember at all what after he did die, kind of what that early period was like, the early months, the early years? What do you think was the hardest for you, in that early time?
Yeah. So, after my dad passed, we had hospice come in, and they were probably in our house for maybe 6 or 7 months, I would say. And things kept going longer than expected. And so, yeah. And so we, our life had really drastically changed. It was really hard because mom was working a lot. I was a busy middle schooler doing middle school things. And my sisters were around, but it was really hard because they didn't live at home. And so, it was just very busy. And then on top of just mom trying to make ends meet to support us, dad was just so sick at home. And so, leading up to it, it was, and I remember having conversations with my dad while he was sick and him kind of telling me when I'm not here, it's because I'm better and things are okay, kind of giving that, I think he was trying to do what he could to help his daughter, Mm-hmm. And so, after my dad passed, there was this, of course, just massive, massive loss and hole in our hearts and all those things. And also I had his voice in the back of my head saying well, he said he's going to be better now. Right. He said, this is okay because he's okay now. Mm. And, so it was comforting, but it was also conflicting because I was like, am I supposed to be okay? Am I not? And so yeah. I think that initial part for me was so hard because I didn't know if what I was feeling was okay. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I could see how that would be tricky and confusing. And you were 12.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It was, it was confusing. And so, I think initially right after that, because again, I was a pretty active kid. I was involved in lots of sports. I was doing dance. I was doing lots of things. And so, I don't think that there was enough of a pause for me, kind of in retrospect and thinking forward, maybe things that we chat about in a minute. But I was just so busy. And so things didn't really stop. It was everything happened. My dad passed. Things were really, really sad. And then things were just happening again. And so I felt a little out of breath. It was kind of this confusing feeling. And then it was okay, well, dad said this is okay. And I'm going to be okay. And me and mom are fine. And now oh my gosh, I don't think I ever took a breath in the middle of all of that. So yeah, really, really interesting.
Yeah. Is it something that, do you feel were people willing to talk about it after he died and talk about grief? Or was it more stay busy, don't talk about it, keep your head down, and, everything's fine?
Yeah, it's a good question. So my mom was so open What I remember was her being so open to talking and always asking me questions. I think the busyness was me. I think that was me putting that into making myself focus on how busy I was, to not feel and to not grieve and to not think about how different my life was about to be. And, in hindsight and in talking to people and like doing therapy and all these different things that have been really supportive for me in my life. I think that was my coping. I think that's how I coped. And I think that there were several times now I'm remembering being like preteen, my mom being like, okay, Haley, you need to like take some time for yourself and like not do 100 things. And I was always like, no, Mom, I got it. I'm good. And actually what's kind of ironic about that is that whenever later on, after I was finishing my second year of my master's, it came back to me. My dad's death came back to me like it had just happened. And I think it was the first time in my life that I actually was like, I was about to graduate. I was looking for jobs. Things were a little slower. And it was as if I paced this marathon and never stopped for a second to even like actually process how I really felt. And so it was the first time it came back around to me. It was a lot.
And this was probably 10 or 15 years after he had died?
It was, let me think, that was probably 2014. So yeah, it's like 12 years, 10, 12 years.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And what was really interesting about the whole situation was, like, I remember being at the dentist. Like, I remember specifically when this like all came flooding back to me, and I was at the dentist and I was like getting my teeth cleaned or something. And I was like walking out and it just like literally felt like it hit me. And I was like, oh my gosh, my dad's dead. Like, that's how I felt in that moment, walking to my car in the parking lot. And I like hysterically started crying. I called my mom. She was like, oh my gosh, are you okay? And I was like, I'm fine. But like, Mom, I'm thinking about Dad. It's like it just happened. Yeah. And, not to say I never thought about him any other time, but it was just so raw, like out of nowhere. Mm-hmm. And that week, ironically too, my university had actually sent out this email, this like all, kind of all student email about this bereavement group for people that had lost a parent. Ah. And I was like, oh, well, okay. Looks like I'm signing up. So the timing was really, was good for me, and that I could experience that group, and it was really helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. So how about, was there a turning point for you ever, like where you said to yourself, I'm going to be okay. Not that it's okay what happened, not that whatever, but just, maybe where you recognize that you would survive and figure out your life, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
it does. Nobody has their life figured out, but you know what I mean.
I do. And I it's really interesting, like in talking about kind of how things hit me kind of my second year of grad school. I think that up until that point, I had told myself that. I had said, like, everything's okay. I'm fine. We're going to be fine, But I think after I had that maybe like a 6-month period where I was really, really engaging in my emotions, and I was really kind of working through this grief cycle that, we talk about this grief cycle, and I was really in that, and I was really working through it. And I think, though it was very hard, that was a turning point for me, because it was me waking up to, hey, you need to like take care of yourself here, and you need to recognize that like this whole time you were telling yourself you were okay, and you are okay, but now I need you to like tune into yourself a little bit more. And it was not what I would have expected in terms of, if you were asking me this before that happened, I would have said, oh yeah, I'm already there. I'm fine. But really after that time, and after I really processed it and thought about it, that's where I think I became like, okay, I think I've got this. I think I'm okay as much as I can be, as much as you can be. Right.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Or for now, at least.
Exactly. Yes.
You never know. Right.
You really don't.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So do you think, are there any maybe unexpected ways that you've grown, do you think, as a result of having to face grief as a young person, as a result of losing your dad at age 12?
Yeah, I think I used to get this like compliment all the time, and my sister tried to take credit for this, but they used to say like, "Oh, you're so mature. Oh my gosh, you're so mature for your age." And in hindsight, and thinking about the kids that I serve with Camp Kesem, I think about the maturity level that often comes with kids that are impacted by a parent's cancer. And I think for me, as soon as I could get a worker's permit, I was working, and it wasn't just to get the experience. I was putting cash back into our house. Like I was helping my mom, and and it wasn't something I ever felt like she made me do, but I felt this responsibility to like, okay, dad's not here. It's just me and mom. I got to help her. She's working 2 jobs. Like I've got to, and so I think the maturity level, in my ability to kind of like recognize and problem solve a situation, I think came out of that. And I know it's like kind of strange and interesting to talk about like what positive things may have been, but I think that my ability to quickly problem solve and be mature and reflect on things, I think came out of that time, because I was 12, and then from there it was just lots of support from my mom and us supporting each other. And so I think I grew up a lot really quickly, which, has its negatives too. But yeah, I think that's something I would be surprised to reflect on. And I think that's something that came out of that.
Yeah. Is there anything that you think your mom did particularly well that maybe other widowed parents can learn from or take as an example?
Yeah, I think, I kind of mentioned this earlier too, but my mom, was, for me, what was helpful was my mom was so open. Like she was so open to sharing her emotions and not, not in a way that felt like she was trying to model something, but in a way that was just real. And also giving me the space to just be real too, and I think, as I kind of talked about, like, I don't know if I ever took her up on that as much as maybe she was expecting, maybe, I don't know, but, she was just so open and honest and authentic. And it really, I think in terms of me figuring out my emotions, it may have taken me a little bit to get to that, but I know that she was a factor in my development there because of just how real and honest she was. I think the other piece of that too is just her supporting me throughout the years after that, and like graduations and things like that, like always being supportive of like, hey, if you want to say something about dad here, or if you want to, giving me these opportunities to like reflect on the fact that like only one of my parents is here for me at this thing, and my dad would have been here, was also really nice. And I just felt like I had the space to own it. I had the space to like own my feelings, talk about it if I wanted to, not talk about it if I didn't want to. It didn't feel forced. It just felt like natural and real.
Yeah.
And helpful.
Yeah. Okay, good. Thank you for sharing that. How about over the years, acknowledging or celebrating your dad's birthdays or death anniversary, things like that? Did you guys do anything that, interesting or meaningful in that regard?
Yeah, we definitely, I wouldn't say anything like, for our family, there wasn't really, we have a pretty small family, wasn't really anything like too big, I guess. But, usually for my dad's birthday is really close to my sister's. And so we always acknowledge him, or we'll talk about him as part of our celebration for my sister as well. And then for the day that we lost him, we call it Dad's Day. And usually I'll like light a few candles, and it's pretty personal. I think each of us deal with it in different ways. I'm not with my family. They're in Georgia. So we have a group text. And so there's always these like acknowledgements. I always talk to my mom on both of his days. And so, yeah, so I think that's really powerful. And for me, like I said, I light candles for him. I do that all the time anyway, but especially on those days. And what's been really, really sweet is that it's been like 5 years ago now, I guess, but my sister found out she was pregnant with my niece on my dad's day. And so that was like this really sweet, kind of thing. And we think about like how much you'd love her. And it was just this really cute, like, opportunity for us to reflect on him and how, we feel like she's got a part of him, because it's just,
nice. Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, really special.
So, just a few more questions here, actually. If you could say one thing to your younger self, what would you say?
Oh my gosh, take a breath, please. Such a busy kid. No, I think that, I think I did the best with what I thought I should do. And I would tell my younger self that. I would say, I think, you're doing the best that you can, and that I am proud of her for everything that she has done to support her mom, even though it wasn't asked, and I think that, I think if you can take a chance to take care of yourself for a second and think about, your own emotions versus everyone else around you and all the things that you need to get done, I think it will help you out down the road if you would do that. But, overall, I definitely very proud of that girl and the way that she was able to make it through something that's just really, really terrible.
Yeah. And bringing it back to Camp Kesem, then what has been the most rewarding thing for you being involved in this organization?
Oh gosh, I could go on and on. It's been, and the reason why I even found Kesem was because I was searching for like a way to support kids that have experienced this. And I was like, golly, and families, too. And in my job, I do a lot of work with children and families. And so it's something I'm really passionate about generally. And I had searched and found Kesem, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so perfect. And so, this year, and in being one of the outreach coordinators, I've been able to make those connections with the families and with the kids, and hope to do more of that at camp. But what I'll say is that I'm a very energy-driven person. I like to do things and be, have projects and have lots of stuff going on. And so for me, it's been just, I can't even describe, like, such a powerful way for me to put this like energetic energy into something that is making such a difference. And it's so personal. It's so personal to me. And I can't wait to meet the kids this summer just to like, because it's this, like, I can share with them. I know, I understand, we all have different experiences. And so like, I'm never going to fully know someone else's story or understand where they're coming from, but we have something that's similar. And so it's just been so, I don't know, it's been like cathartic for me just to be able to put my energy into something that's just so personal, but also so impactful.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I love the fact that this organization can serve both the youth who are participants and the college age people who are the leaders, but they're serving and being served, I guess. I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but
yeah, it really feels like it. I mean, I was just telling someone the other day, like, this has been such a healing year for me, just in the service piece of it.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad always used to say that life is for service, and I put that on my graduation cap when I graduated, and it's still something I live by today. And Camp Kesem has given me that. It's given me the ability to serve in a way that is just, it's just amazing. And I would encourage anyone who is interested in working in Camp Kesem or volunteering or being involved in some capacity to certainly do it, because you won't regret it. It's an amazing, amazing organization.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, well, on that note, I have one more question. If you could say one thing to adults who have a grieving child in their life, what would you say?
I would say to tell them that what they're feeling is okay. Whatever that looks like to them, it is okay. And they are loved. And that there will be a time where you can move forward, and there will be other times where you can't. And all of that is okay. Everything between, in and out and all around and in between, all of that is okay. And, I think normalizing feelings as much as possible, even if sometimes it's anger, even if sometimes it's, something that you might not expect, it's okay, because we all experience things differently. And so that would be something I would offer.
Yeah, great. Okay, well, I think that is a great place to end. So my guest today is Haley Brown, who lost her dad when she was just 12 years old, and who is an outreach coordinator for the Seattle University chapter of Camp Kesem. So, Haley, where can listeners find Camp Kesem if they would like to know if there's a camp near them, either for their kids or if they're a college student who'd like to find out about getting involved in a chapter? Where can people find out more about Camp Kesem?
Yeah, so campkesem.org is the main website where all of the national information is. campkesem.org /Seattle is where Seattle University's chapter is located. It'll pop right up if you Google it. And so in the website, you can go through and look for some of the specific information. Yeah.
Can I just interrupt and ask, how do you spell Kesem?
Yeah, thank you. Good question. It is KESEM.
Okay, so campkesem.org, Kesem.
You got it, yeah.
Fantastic. Well, Haley, thank you so much for speaking with me today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
I hope you enjoyed my interview with Haley Brown as much as I did. You can find show notes and all the links at widowedparentpodcast.com. Look for episode 27. And I have some exciting news to share. I was interviewed recently on the Life Through Transitions podcast about my journey as a widowed parent. Check it out. If you search for Jenny Lisk or Life Through Transitions on iTunes or on your favorite podcast app, you should find it. It's episode 46 of that podcast. If you do listen, drop me a line and let me know if it was helpful to you at all. Thanks for listening. Until next week, keep smiling.
Thank you for listening to the Widowed Parent Podcast with your host, Jenny Lisk. Connect with us on social media and at widowedparentpodcast.com.